The proclamation of the Holy Gospel according to Mark. Jesus and his disciples set out for the villages of Caesarea Philippi. Along the way, he asked his disciples, "Who do people say that I am?" They said in reply, "John the Baptist, others Elijah, still others one of the prophets." And he asked them, "But who do you say that I am?" Peter said to him in reply, "You are the Christ." Then he warned them not to tell anyone about him. He began to teach them that the Son of Man must suffer greatly and be rejected by the elders, the chief priests and the scribes, and be killed, and rise after 3 days. He spoke this openly. Then Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him. At this he turned around and, looking at his disciples, rebuked Peter and said, "Get behind me, Satan. You are thinking not as God does, but as human beings do." He summoned the crowd with his disciples and said to them, "Whoever wishes to come after me must deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. For whoever wishes to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake and that of the gospel will save it." The Gospel of the Lord.
Our Gospel for this Sunday comes from the 8th chapter of St. Mark. We have been reflecting on the relationship between faith and love, and how deep faith is manifested in love. That is the fruition of faith. This is manifested to us in the first reading, the figure of the suffering servant of God, whose faith is the source of determination to serve, the determination to give of oneself in love. And in the second reading, St. James reminds us that faith without loving works of love, no, that faith is lifeless. So faith includes the acceptance of the law of love, which makes us do good works for other people, especially the poor, the hungry, and those who are in need of clothing and shelter. Now, in the Gospel for today, we find Jesus, in a way, putting the disciples to a test of their faith. He asks them, "Who do people say that I am?" And you, my close companions, you are my friends. You who have lived with me closely, those of you who know me, have known me. Now, who do you say that I am? This is a question of faith. Jesus seems to be curious. He wants to know whether they have reached a decision of faith, a knowledge of faith. Do they know who He truly is? Have they reached the point of true discipleship in terms of faith? And Peter as an individual, and maybe as the head of the group of apostles, proclaims what we all believe in. You are the Messiah. You are the Son of the living God. Now, the people of this time, especially including the disciples, were expecting a Messiah that was triumphalistic and even militaristic. But Jesus tells them that this is not the way of His Messiahship. He will suffer a lot, He will be arrested, He will be put to death, but He will rise again. And upon hearing that, Peter's faith wavered. Peter could not believe what he was hearing, and probably his heart refused to believe in a Messiah who will not triumph over the enemies. He could not put his faith in a Messiah that would be defeated by the enemies. And so he remonstrated with Jesus. But Jesus told him, Peter, Get away from me. You are not judging by God's standards. In other words, Jesus is telling Peter, look, Peter, your faith is not pure. Your faith, or what you profess as your faith, is not motivated by your vision coming from God. You are still operating on human standards, on human criteria of what a Messiah should be. But faith is harmonizing yourself with God's ideas. And then Jesus made it clear to them as He makes it clear to us. Who is a true disciple? Who is a true believer? Only the one who can imitate Him. Not the one who will desire positions, power, and triumphs or successes, but the one who can deny oneself, the one who is capable of carrying one's cross. In other words, the one who can love the way Jesus loves. The Messiahship of Jesus is not rooted in triumph. It is rooted in love, the law of love that we talked about in the second reading. The love that is at the root of one's good works. And for Jesus, that is His Messiahship. Because of love, Jesus will give Himself for our salvation. Out of love, Jesus will deny Himself what rightfully belongs to Him as the Son of God. Out of love, He will be the Messiah who can carry our crosses. This is the Messiah that we should believe in. And believing in Him, we should love as He loves. That is the mark of a believer in Jesus Christ. His capacity to love and suffer out of love. So in Jesus, we find the fulfillment of the first reading. And He invites us who believe in Him to follow His way of love. Believing in Jesus, we love selflessly the way He loves. My dear brothers and sisters, we have heard this so many times already. We have heard so many explanations about the cost of discipleship. This is really the way to believe in Jesus. It is a package. If you believe in Jesus, you accept also His way of selfless love. And it is the way of self-denial and suffering. Not because we want to suffer, but because we love. And when we love, we have the great capacity to bear all things. And it is rooted in our faith. We want to be like the one we believe in. And believing in Him, we will love the way He loves. For our Bicolano brothers and sisters, today is the solemnity of Our Lady of Peñafrancia. And again, the memory of this great person from Naga is still very fresh in our minds, Secretary Jessie Robredo. And many people continue to tell us stories. And what is amazing is I happened to talk with a person, a priest, who was very close to him. And he whispered to me, you know, what people say about his faith is true. Jesse used to come to me for direction, spiritual counseling, and for confession. He's truly a man of faith, and he is truly a devotee of Ina. And we can see how this faith leads to loving service, to forgetfulness of self, not aspiring for power and prestige. When one's faith is rooted in Jesus, then you love the way Jesus loved, and you aspire to be like Him, to die to self, until He reached this death. Tragic in the eyes of many, but for us, it is in this death that His faith and love were sealed for all of us. And I am inviting you to recall the great men and women of faith and also of love, whose faith in Jesus led them to love in a selfless way, the way Jesus loved. The Word has been exposed. Let us now fulfill it.